This is my Dr. Uiro mill control deck. So 1 copy of the leader. 4 Super Saiyan Goku, Another Chance. 4 Gigantic Bomber, Dr. Uiro. 4 Fuse Zamasu Deity's Wrath. 4 Piccolo Assimilated Ability. 4 Android 17 Impending Crisis. 4 Gohan, Baby's Minion. 4 Kibito Kai's Attendant. 4 Gowasu Manipulative Supremacy. 4 Android 18 Super Combo. 4 Homicidal Clones. 4 Janemba Wicked Agent Destruction Unison. 4 SS Gotenks Absolute Unison. 4 Toa Dark Demon Realm Unison. 1 Dr. Uiro's Lab, and 1 Heron's Lineage. Alright. So there's 3 things this deck is trying to do, right? There's the mill element of the deck through the effect of Janemba Wicked Agent of Destruction Unison. Then we have the control elements of the lab, as well as some of our other take control cards, right? As well as our board wipe over here, our Piccolo. So we have ways to control the opponent's board. And then we have our leader's win con, which we can try to accomplish through the effects of Giant Bomber and Janemba's effect, because Bomber can let you grab up to 2 of your opponent's battle cards in their drop area and place it under your lab. So we can take advantage of the fact that we're milling our opponent with Janemba and combine it with Gigantic Bomber to guarantee we always have access to up to 2 battle cards from our opponent's drop to put under the lab. And of course, we're going to be using Kibito Kai to help us bounce the Bomber back to our hand so we can replay it. Bomber being a blocker, it has a relevancy because you can use it to block to protect Kibito Kai and keep the little up and down engine going, right? Bounce it to the hand, play, bounce it to hand, play, right? So you have the potential for the leader's win con. And of course, being able to stall long enough for your opponent to deck out, that's another win con right there. And just taking control of your opponent's battle cards and beating them down with it, helps. And the one last thing is hand control. Because with the effect of Gowasu combined with Fuse Zamasu is going to definitely and of course Android 18 Super Combo is going to help us control our opponent's hand, because Gowasu will control their draw. So the idea is to make sure they don't draw good, and Android 18 will definitely help rip some cards out their hand. Fuse Zamasu will help us rip some cards from our opponent's hand. And then of course, just through the effects of Goku, Piccolo, anything else we have, we'll have some board control, so our opponent's not going to be able to keep things on the field. Uiro's Lab, not going to keep things on the field too long, so we're going to have field control, hand control, draw control, deck control, if you want to go with the whole mill, right? So we got the mill control, right? That's a lot of control in this deck, so mill control, just to simplify it. We're milling and we're controlling our opponent's hand, deck, and battle area. And you can even say drop area, because we got Bomber grabbing battle cards from the drop, so we got some drop area control. So a lot of control elements in this deck, synergizing in there. And then of course, we got our defensive cards. We got blockers, so we got all that good stuff, negates, blocker unisons, all that good stuff. So Dr. Uiro, when you play this leader in your leader area, you automatically get to play Dr. Uiro's Lab. So you automatically get that onto the field. Then it has an auto where you attack your opponent's leader. You can look up to 7 cards on top of your deck and choose up to 1 Frenzied Warrior among them and add it to hand, but there's no Frenzied Warrior in this deck, so you won't be adding anything. But you can still trigger the effect just to shuffle your deck. Just to help you with consistency, especially if you have Janemba, you will be drawing. So if you want to swing with the leader to trigger its ability to essentially let you shuffle your deck, and then use your Janemba's ability to draw, so that we can potentially draw something good, like your one of Heron's Lineage, for example, or any other important piece. Double checking this because I hate that this is like scientists. Why couldn't this be like a Frenzy Warrior, right? All the Dr. Uiro cards are just scientists. I mean, I get it. He is a scientist. But it would have been nice if he did Frenzy Warrior or Scientist. That way you could search this out at least. But they did make him that way. Anyway. Awaken, we have 4 or more energy. Or you have 3 or less life. You can untap 2 energy and awaken. So that's very useful. The energy untapping, which will come in handy in a certain combo that I'll explain later. When he's awakened, auto when he attacks, you draw a card. Active main, once per turn, choose 1 card from your hand. Place into the drop area, choose 1 keyword skill on one of your opponent's battle cards and negate it for the duration of turn, like barrier, indestructible, blocker, things of that nature. And then it has a second active main, of course, it's the win con one, which is if you have 17 or more cards under your Dr. Uiro's lab, you'll win the game. So that's something to look forward to, right? Play to try to win with that effect. So that's an option at least, but you do have the decking out option. This deck is, let me see, 40, 52, 53, 54. So it's a 54 card deck, not a 60 card deck, but it's a 54 card deck. So, but technically it'll be 53 because you get the lab out automatically. Plus, once you draw and you take cards and put it to your life, that would drastically reduce the size of the deck. But you get the idea. This deck is a little bit thicker than most, as they say. So you should be able to deck your opponent out before you deck yourself out. But it depends, because you do draw from this. You do draw from the leader if you swing with the leader. You do draw from pick up some ability if you trigger that card's effect. And there's some good draw cards in here. We got gold tanks that draws, so be careful not to draw too much. Best thing to do is to rely on Janemba for your draw, so that way you can keep your hands thick, but not overdo it and deck yourself out in the process. So we got Goku, another chance. He's a 20k blocker with revive for blue-green, which means when he is KO'd by skill or battle, you can discard a blue-green card or a blue and a green card. If I'm right, it's been a long time since I've seen this skill. And you can revive. You can bring the battle card back onto the field. And this effect is can only be applied once per turn, so can't just keep using it. You can only apply it once. And that's about it. And from right, I'm thinking, this card comes back in last one, but I don't think so. I think it comes back in active mode, and then there's that. So since they're blockers, obviously they'll go in rest mode before they get KO'd. They'll go to the drop. You revive them from the drop. They'll hit the field again. They are green, so that's a thing. Because if you use this with Frieza's healing pod, you would draw cards from that. So that's a thing. But we're not doing that in here, obviously. But it's he's a blocker. He dies. You can bring him back. So you could potentially stop 2 attacks. Also, he has the auto. When you play this card, period, from your hand or from the drop area, right? Choose any number of your opponent's battle cards with energy cost 5 or less. Then that add up to energy cost of 5 or less and KO them. So you can get rid of 5 1-drops, or a 3-drop and a 2-drop, or just 1 5-drop, or a 4-drop and a 1-drop. You get the idea. As long as it adds up to 5. Which is nice, so it can be potential board wipe against a whole bunch of, 1-drop, 2-drop, battle cards that we can take down a 5-dropper or less. So that's very useful, especially going down your opponent's turn. Very useful. So, and of course we're going to try to bounce this back to our hand with Kabito Kai so we can replay it and keep, board wiping our opponent. So that's the idea. We're going to keep trying to board wipe our opponent through that. Then we got Gigantic Bomber, Dr. Uiro. This will be one, it's a blocker, it's a 3-drop blocker. Also has revive, so you can revive it. This does state how the effect works. Place cards in your hand into your drop area that match the colors specified, which is red and which is blue and green. When this card, but that's why you can just do one multicolor card. You could do a blue and a green, or just one multicolor. I don't know if you could just do 2 green, 2 blue, but I doubt. I think it's one of each color, so 1 blue, 1 green, or a multicolor. Then, when this card is KO'd, play this card and negate this skill for this. Yeah, negate this skill. So that's it. So you can't bring it back in active mode, obviously, so you can block with it twice because it is a blocker. And then auto, when you play this card, choose up to 2 battle cards in your opponent's drop area and put those cards under your Dr. Uiro's lab or under this card. See, now, since we have the lab, we're just going to put them under the lab, obviously. But if this was in another deck, you would put it under him specifically. But we're definitely trying to put the cards under our opponents, under our lab, so we could try to do the Leader's Wing Con. So there's that. Fuse them also Deity's Wrath. 20k indestructible, so once it hits the field, it'll stick on the field for for the duration of the game, right? Has an active main where you pay 1. If you have 3 or more energy, choose battle cards with in your battle area with 5k power or higher, with a total energy cost of 5, and place them into your drop area. So it has to add up to 5. Place them into the drop area and then play this card. Auto, when this card attacks, your opponent chooses 1 card from the hand and places it into the drop area. So that's where the hand control comes in. And since it's indestructible, it'll stay on the field for a long while. So, a way we have of bringing them out would be through Piccolo and Android 17. What you'll do is obviously on turn 4, play Piccolo for 4 energy, right? And since you have 4 energy, you should be able to awaken a leader, so you can awaken a leader untapping 2 energy. So now you have 2 energy, you can use 1 energy, which, you want it to be green, to play Android 17, because he's on 1 drop, so you have him, and Piccolo, that adds up to 5. But before you, just drop Fuse Zamasu, you can attack with Assimilated Piccolo, because now you have Bomb 2, right? So you have his active battle ability, he's a very 20k, swing with him, trigger his active battle ability, KO one of your opponent's battle cards so that you can draw for that and be able to get rid of something like a blocker or something, right, in the process. And then, with the 1 energy you have left, use Piccolo, Android 17 to play your Fuse Zamasu, and then you'll be able to swing when you Fuse Zamasu, make your opponent discard a card. So that way you plus a card, and then your opponent negates a card, so it's kind of like, the whole idea is for you to always have more cards in your opponent, right? The hand advantage thing. So reduce your opponent's hands while increasing your own is awesome. So there's that. Basic line of play. That's just so you can get out Fuse Zamasu if you want to do that. Obviously, just being able to just play Piccolo and then drop Android 17, for example, just so you can trigger Piccolo's active battle ability and use it defensively is more than enough. Or the more logical thing to do, right, would be to play a Piccolo, untap the 2 energy, right, and then just keep the 2 energy untapped, because you'd rather use Android 17 to negate an attack and then play him, and then Piccolo assimilated ability will be, get his bomb 2, you'd be able to use that to stop another potential attack. So obviously that'd be the better play if you're not trying to play Fuse Zamasu. So there's that, and you still have 1 energy up for anything else you want to play, like maybe another Android 17, negate another attack. So there's that. I'm mentioning him, of course. Pay 1 energy, negate an attack, play him because he's counterattack. and his auto doesn't matter because your leader's not Android. The leader is the scientist. Alright, so baby Gohan's baby minion, counterattack, negate attack, play this card. He has servants, so he'll get 10k power and doesn't untap during your charge phase. So he's a 25k on the field. And auto, when this card is played, your opponent can't attack for the turn unless they choose one card from the hand and place it at the bottom of the deck. Which in a way might sound a little counterintuitive to the whole mill, part of the deck strategy, right? But it's fine, right? One or two things could happen. Your opponent's going to attack, but they're not. If they do, okay, then they're putting a card back in their deck. Good for them. But if they don't attack, better for you, because you don't want them to be attacking. And then, of course, using Kabito Kai to bounce any of these back to our hands, right? Bouncing back our Android 17, so we can use them to negate, because, he's a 1 energy negate, or bouncing back our Gigantic Bomber, so we can keep filling up our Uiro's Lab with this effect, or board wiping our opponent with our Goku Another Chance, or just using our Gohan baby minion so we can have the floodgate effect. Be able to negate attack as well as make it hard for our opponent to attack unless they're willing to give up hand size, which we're already going to make it tough for them to have a hand through effects like Kawasu and whatnot. Because we're definitely going to make it with Kawasu alone, we're going to make it hard for them to get good cards from drawing from their deck, right? And then throw in the baby minion effect. If they do attack, they're probably going to give up something good. And we know they're not going to get anything better when they draw on their turn, right? Because we made sure, Kawasu made sure of that, right? You gotta have full control. So this is obviously a good deck for control players. And we got Kabito Kai as a 10, of course, I already mentioned the whole bouncing back your stuff, so you can reuse it. And it has the ability you could choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, 3 cards or less, and bounce it to the hand. So there's that. So it gives us a little bit of board control bouncing stuff to our opponent's hand, as well as bouncing our own stuff so we can reuse it, which is always awesome. Then we got, of course, Kawasu. Active main once per turn. Look at the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck and put those cards back in any order you want. So obviously, you want to put any high cost, anything that costs 5 or more, like a battle card that costs 5 or more. You definitely want to push them down and bring to the top of the deck, right? Anything 4 or less, because you can obviously scoop up those 4 or less battle cards through Dr. Uiro's Lab, because you definitely want to fill this up with as many of your opponent's battle cards as possible, of course, just through that alone. And then of course you want to let them get stuff like negates, for example, let them get their negates and stuff. You don't care, because all they're going to do is use them. It's not like they can deal you damage with negates. All they can do is stop you, right? So let them have their negates. They're going to use them whenever you swing anyway, so they're going to be losing that anyway. So the idea is to give them less of stuff they can attack you with, aka strong, powerful, problematic battle cards. You want to give them weak battle cards, because it'll be easy for you to deal with their weak stuff, especially anything 5 or more, because we know Piccolo can deal with at least 5 or less, and we know Goku can deal with 5 or less, but anything 6 or higher, that'll be definitely problematic, right? So definitely want to avoid those. We do have ways to deal with 6 or higher, like Toa and everyone's Lineage, but you rather just not be in a situation where your opponent's dropping 6 drops left and right, right? So definitely keep them low on the battle cards they're using and take advantage of that. Something, because we do have Janemba, something you can do. I always like the idea of having 2 Kawasus while I have Janemba in play, because what I can do is use the first Kawasu to look at the top 3 cards of my opponent's deck, right? Organize them in a way where the top card will be the card I want to go to my opponent's hand from Janemba's ability, because me and my opponent both will draw a card from my Janemba's ability. Then the next card is the card I want to go to the drop, so that's the one that get milled. And the third one doesn't matter, because the third one I'm going to manipulate with the effect of the second Kawasu, because the second Kawasu you'll trigger its active main and look at the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck and manipulate the top 3. And again, you always want to put, problematic cards further down, at the, at the bottom, and anything you want your opponent to have, you don't care your opponent has, closer to the top, right? So you want them to draw the cards you don't care about versus the cards you do care about. Another thing you get from this that I forgot to mention before about the whole Gowasu thing is not only do you get to control what your opponent's, drawing during the draw phase, not only do you have control of their draw, you actually have hand knowledge now because you know what's going into their hands. So you always know, because whenever they charge energy, usually their energy area pretty much mirrors their hand, because sometimes people charge extra copies of cards. So if somebody charges a charismatic villain Frieza, for example, they're more likely to have a second copy in their hand, right? So their energy area mirrors their hand, so that's already giving you hand knowledge. And then with Gowasu, manipulating the top cards of your deck, that you know what your opponent's going to be drawing for the next 3 turns, right? Just with Gowasu's effect alone, and you're the one who manipulate, and you're the one who choose what they're going to be drawing. That's a lot of knowledge. So that, knowledge, right? It's not about Lamborghinis, it's about knowledge. So that gives you way more control, way more power than you should be allowed to have. But that's the way we like it, right? So that's something you want to do, because it lets you manipulate, a lot of cards from the top of your opponent's deck if you have 2 Gowasus and the Unison. So that's extra awesome. And then, of course, doing that every turn is just drastically plucking all the good stuff out here off the top of your opponent's deck, which is mill control, right? Then we have Android 18, super combo, the leader is green, so you can combo this from your hand, and your opponent chooses a card from the hand, put it at the bottom of the deck. Granted, you rather have it in the drop, but, as long as they don't have it in their hand, that's better than anything. You'd rather them not have anything good in their hand. More likely, whatever they put from their hand to the bottom of the deck is going to be a, bad card. Well, what they perceive as a bad card. But then when you're doing something like this, and then you using Gowasu to make sure they don't draw anything good, and then bang, drop your fuse the mouse and start swinging. Now the good cards they left in their hand, now they're going to start having to lose those good cards from their hand. So eventually, their hand's going to wither down of having good cards, because you're making sure when they draw, they're drawing bad cards, and Zamasu is forcing them to either get rid of those, discard those bad cards that you keep putting in their hands, right? Or they'll have to give up something else. So it depends, right? On how your opponent reacts to all of this. Alright, so we have Homicidal Clones, pretty much free negate, right? You can, leader card is mono green. You can use this to negate an attack. Make a token that has 5k power, 0 cost, 5k combo, which can come in handy. And it has blocking until the end of the turn. So you could stop potentially 2 attacks for this with this card. And, 2 green to play it. But as a permanent, where if you have 5 or less life, you can take a card from your life, edit your hand to play this card for free. And of course, you can play multiple copies of this per turn. So you could stop multiple attacks for a couple life. So that's busted, right? Free negates. So we got that. So you don't have to worry about tapping out because we got the free negates, right? Janemba, of course, we've been talking about this whole time. Plus 0 ability, active main. You and your opponent both draw a card, then your opponent mills a card. So you want to use that with Gowasu because you'll get more control. You'll get to mill what you want to mill instead of just the milling being random. You make sure your opponent draws a bad card and mills a good card, right? So you want to do that. He has the +1 ability where this card gains critical, so you could try to take advantage of that, especially if you want to be attacking your opponent. Then you could just go that route. Like you could just not waste time with milling, just use Gowasu to manipulate your opponent's draw. Use this card's +1 ability to give a crit and swing at your opponent's leader every turn, right? And just keep critting your opponents. That way your opponent's not adding anything from their life to their hand. And since you're manipulating their draw, they're not getting anything good to the hand. So eventually, they're going to run out of good stuff, right? Eventually, they're not going to have much in their hand to play against you. And then eventually, you'll just drop Fuse and Monster and then just have full control after that. So much stuff your opponent has to deal with. And especially when you manipulate your opponent's draw, making it hard for them to draw into their outs. There's so much going on here that can't explain everything. Like, obviously this is busted. This card is so strong, which is so surprising not many people are using it right now. But hopefully they will once they realize the power. Then we have his -2 ability. If your opponent has 15 or less cards in their deck, this card gains 15k power and triple strike. So it'll be a 30k triple strike, so it can be obviously a finisher. Especially, if you're doing a lot of hand control, a lot of draw manipulation, stuff like that, and critting, your opponent's going to get to a point where it'll be hard for them to have anything good in the hand because you're not adding battle cards to the hands all the time. It's just like extras, maybe unisons or something. Extra cards in unisons, so their hands are going to be full with a lot of cards that they can't combo with, like super combos. Obviously, you're not going to give your opponent super combos. You're going to mill the super combos, right? Or at least suppress the super combos to Gawasu's effect, and then go in for the triple strike kill, right? Once your opponent's down to kill range, and then just dump your hand since you're going to be drawing a lot through your leader and other effects. Then we got SS Gotenks Absolute Unison, dual attack, blocker. You can obviously attack with it twice against a unison, so you can knock off 2 markers off your opponent's unison, so it could be a unison killer if you use it right. Or the fact that it has dual attack, you can swing at your opponent's leader twice, or attack 2 battle cards, or you can swing with it and then attack something, whether it be a battle card or leader, and then restand it with its dual attack ability and keep it in active mode because it's a blocker, so that you can block, so you can have a sword and shield strategy. Has the -2 ability, so you can draw 2 cards in case your hand's getting light. You might want to thicken your hand. And then it has the -3 ability where choose up to 2 of your opponent's battle cards, ignore and bury, and place them at the bottom of your opponent's deck. This is more so useful against anything 5 costs and higher, anything 4 costs or less. That's what the lab is for. Don't waste this beautiful effect on anything 4 or less. The lab is more than enough to deal with anything 4 or less. Now, if the thing has barrier and it's 4 or less, well, that's why you use the leader's effect to take away the barrier, and then use the lab for 2 energy to take away, to get rid of the, to absorb, whatever you want to call it, right? To remove the 4 cost or less card that has barrier, right? So there's that. So we have barrier stuff in our, in this deck ourselves. We got stuff that, we got our own barrier guy right here and stuff like that. But we also have, a way to bypass barrier against our opponent if need be. Plus we got barrier hate here, and of course using the leader's ability to remove barrier from something will allow our Goku to get rid of something. Our Piccolo will be able to get rid of something even if it has barrier, because we will use this to take the barrier away. Once you take away barrier, then anything is vulnerable, right? And speaking of removing barrier, will help us be able to use Toa to steal any of our opponent's battle cards that normally has barrier, but we took it away. And the same goes for Hero's Lineage, because it does 7 costs or less battle cards. But if the battle card has barrier, then obviously we gotta use the leader, take it away, so that way we can take our opponent's stuff. So there's that. And Toa also has the condition that if she has 2 or less markers, she can't attack. So she needs 3 or more markers to attack, and she has a 20k body. Auto, once per turn, when one of your opponent's battle cards is removed from the battle area by a skill or KO, put a mark on her. And most of the effects in here will trigger on your turn and your opponent's turn, so you can give her markers on your 1 marker on your turn and 1 marker on your opponent's turn, so she can fill up markers pretty consistently. And you can obviously take advantage of that because once she has 4 markers, remove 4 markers and take something, right? With her -4 ability. And if you keep getting markers, right, you can do it over and over again. So it could be an engine where you keep taking stuff if you can keep doing it. And all you need is some blockers to prevent your opponent from trying to attack you or attack her. So there's that. So your blockers that you can put in work to help keep her in play, as well as be able to potentially trigger her effects. Then we got, did I mention? Oh, I did mention her +0 ability. Her +0 ability is choose 1 card from your hand, discard it, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards, 3 costs or less, and send it to a warp. So if that card well, you really wouldn't need to warp anything. If you want, it's an option. Obviously, you might be in a position where it's like, yeah, I might need to warp something with this, but you're really not going to use this for that. You rather use the lab in order to grab anything 4 or less. So really not going to use this effect that much, but her -4 definitely, as well as her marker ability. So we definitely take advantage of that. The 3-Year-Old's Lab is a field card. You play it automatically once you play your leader. Permanent. Your battle cards can't be switched to rest mode by your opponent's skills, which is really good against certain decks like MicroRecords and stuff, right? And you can only use blue or green cards to put cards on this card. Obviously, we already have that. And second permanent, this card can't be removed from your battle area by your opponent's card skills, so which is great. So once it hits the field, it just stick on the field, which is why we only need 1 copy. Active main, pay 2, choose one of your opponent's battle cards 4 costs or less and place it on this card. And of course, this is not a once per turn effect, so you can keep paying 2 and keep grabbing 4 costs or less battle cards from your opponent's side of the field and put it under this card. It would have been cool if they made it where this card can do field or drop area. That would have been really badass, but I guess that would have been made it more busted, right? So there's that, and then we have Heroes Lineage. Has an active battle ability. You pay 1 to play it. When your opponent has 3 or more energy, you can take control of a battle card 7 costs or less, and it's an active battle effect. You can use it on your turn, to grab a 7 costs or less battle card that has barrier by using your leader's ability to remove the barrier off that card and then swinging, and then using this during your active battle to, to take your opponent's 7 costs or less battle card. So there's synergy there, and that's the end of the video.